Hi, you're watching Weekly World Climate Change News. The fourth largest cement company in the world, Heidelberg Cement, pledged to reduce direct greenhouse gas emissions by 15% per ton of its products by 2030 from its 2016 levels. Heidelberg Cement also committed to reduce indirect emissions by 65%, mainly from its electricity supply within the same period. The company's main goal is to produce CO2-neutral concrete by 2050 at the latest. Concrete is the most widely used man-made substance on Earth, with its demand rising because of growing population and urbanization. The announcement is welcomed by international activists, as the cement industry is responsible for about 7% of CO2 emissions. New Zealand is committed to net zero greenhouse gas emissions before 2050. The country has a rare mix of greenhouse gas emissions for a developed country, since it has many sheep and cattle which emit methane from digesting grass. The government aims to reduce methane emissions by 24 to 47% by 2050 in comparison to net zero for the rest of greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide produced from manure that is longer lasting and causes more climate impact than methane. A 24% reduction in methane emissions by 2050 will help reverse global warming, since it will generate enough cooling to compensate for the warming caused by other non-methane greenhouse gases. Several universities and schools across the world are setting a powerful example by acting on reducing carbon emissions and promoting renewable energy. In Britain, for instance, many universities have declared a climate emergency. Among these, Bristol University has managed to reduce carbon emissions by 27% since 2005 and aims to become carbon neutral by 2030. Charles Sturt University in Australia, as well as Bowdoin College in the US, have already reached the goal of carbon neutrality. Currently, UN Environment is collaborating with universities globally to create national and regional green universities network. Their purpose is to include sustainability and the development of resource-efficient strategy into the school curricula. The UK will need to spend £1 billion a year on flood management. One of the biggest issues is that floods are unpredictable and can cause substantial damage, especially in urban communities. One solution is a better drainage system, which has the opportunity to adjust the movement of water. These systems have benefited from artificial intelligence becoming more efficient. An example is the Centaur system created at the University of Sheffield, which is a remote-controlled artificial intelligence system that manages the flow of water in cities. It works by installing gates in the sewer network, monitoring water levels on either side of the gates using sensors, and adjusting water levels by opening a gate when water levels are low and closing a gate to reroute water when water levels are high. The phrase functionally extinct is now being used to describe koalas. This means that their population has declined so much that they no longer play a significant role in their ecosystem. It also means that koalas can successfully reproduce in the wild to replace the population, and breeding pairs may be inbreeding. The Australian Koala Foundation says that there are approximately 100,000 individuals left. Between 1890 and 1927, 8 million koalas were shot mainly for fur. However, today they are threatened by human enrichment of habitats, domestic dogs, diseases, and droughts. The koala is one of Australia's most recognizable symbols, and the AKF is calling for a Koala Protection Act to protect its habitats, especially on private-owned property. After 2 weeks of meetings, 1,400 delegates from around 180 countries have agreed on a legally binding and globally reaching framework to manage plastic waste and toxic, hazardous chemicals. This includes better regulations and more transparency for the global trade of plastic waste and the elimination of about 4,000 chemicals. To ensure that this agreement is soon implemented, a new partnership on plastic waste was created with a task to enlist all interested parties to offer their resources for the swift introduction of new measures. The new report, EU Overshot Day, Living Beyond Nature's Limits, published by WWF and the Global Footprint Networks, warns that Europe is consuming more than its fair share of Earth resources. On the basis of calculations taking into account the environmental footprint of an average European, the report identifies May 10th as the EU Overshoot Day. This means that this is the date by when humans would have already taken as many resources from nature as the planet can renew in a year. At this rate, 2.8 planets are needed to meet Europe's demand. For those who live in hectic cities, know the alleviation of a city park. Trees and green spaces have both mental health and well-being benefits, as well as being great for relaxation and recreation. Trees, however, are also great help for the physical well-being as they reduce air pollution. Trees retain particulate matter, which is particularly damaging to lungs, and leaves perform as filters, absorbing polluting gases. Furthermore, trees can cool temperatures in cities, which is hot climate can reduce energy expenditure on, for example, air conditioning, as experimental investigations and modeling studies in the United States have shown that shade from trees can reduce the air conditioning costs of detached houses by 20 to 30%. You were watching Weekly World Climate Change News. My name is Katerina Velkov, and we hope you will join us next week.